Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Charadivasa Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatir Anyata. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're back in Mathura, and we're now going to hear about how Lord Krishna satisfies Kubja. You may remember that when Krishna first entered Mathura, before killing Kamsa, he met this Kubja, and she supplied sandalwood pulp unto Krishna and Balaram, although the sandalwood was actually supposed to go to Kamsa. And then Krishna made the hunchback woman, Kubja, he gave her a jerk, caught her by the cheek, and straightened her out and made her a beautiful girl. And at that time, she snatched Krishna's cloth and said, "Oh, I can't leave you. You must come with me to my house where I can satisfy you." So Krishna said, "Well, not now. Maybe later on I will come." So this is where we pick up. Lord Krishna satisfies Kubja. When Kubja was converted into a beautiful society girl, she wanted Krishna to come to her place so that she could try to receive and worship Krishna in her own way. This society girl, Kubja, was actually captivated by lust to satisfy her senses with Krishna. When Krishna desired to go to the house of Kubja, Krishna certainly had no desire for sense gratification, because by simply supplying the sandalwood pulp to Krishna previously, Kubja had already satisfied Krishna's senses. But on the plea of her sense gratification, however, Krishna decided to go to Kubja's house, not actually for sense gratification, but to turn Kubja into a pure devotee. After all, Krishna is always served by many thousands of goddesses of fortune, and therefore Krishna has no need to satisfy his senses by going to some society girl. But because Krishna is kind to everyone, Krishna decided to go there. As it is said, the moon does not withhold its shining from the courtyard of a crooked person. So similarly, Krishna's transcendental mercy is never denied to anyone who has actually rendered service unto Krishna, whether it be through lust, anger, fear, or pure love. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated that if one wants to serve Krishna and at the same time one wants to satisfy his or her own lusty desires, Krishna will handle the situation in such a way that the devotee forgets one's lusty desires and becomes fully purified, constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. So, to fulfill his promise, Krishna, along with Uddhava, went to the house of Kubja, who was very eager to get Krishna for the satisfaction of her lusty desires. When Krishna reached Kubja's house, Krishna saw that it was completely decorated with flags embroidered with pearl necklaces, along with comfortable beds and cushioned chairs. The rooms were provided with flower garlands and were nicely scented with incense and sprinkled with scented water. The rooms were also illuminated by nice lamps. When Kubja saw that Lord Krishna had actually come to her house in order to fulfill his promised visit, Kubja immediately got up from her chair to receive Krishna cordially. Accompanied by her many girlfriends, Kubja began to talk with Krishna with great respect and honor. After offering Krishna a nice place to sit, Kubja worshipped Lord Krishna in a manner just suitable to her position. Uddhava was similarly received by Kubja and her girlfriends. But Uddhava did not want to sit on an equal level with Krishna, and thus Uddhava simply sat down on the floor. Then Krishna entered the bedroom of Kubja without wasting time. In the meantime, Kubja took her bath, smearing her body with sandalwood pulp. Kubja dressed herself with nice garments, valuable jewelry, ornaments, and flower garlands. After chewing betel nut and other intoxicating eatables, and spraying herself with scents, Kubja appeared before Krishna. Kubja's smiling glance and moving eyebrows were full of feminine bashfulness as Kubja stood gracefully before Lord Krishna, who was known as Madhava, the husband of the goddess of fortune. When Krishna saw Kubja hesitating to come before him, Krishna immediately caught hold of Kubja's hand, which was decorated with bangles. With great affection, Krishna dragged Kubja near him and made Kubja sit by his side. Simply by having previously supplied pulp of sandalwood to the Supreme Lord Krishna, Kubja had become free from all sinful reactions and eligible to enjoy with Krishna. Kubja then took Krishna's lotus feet, placing them upon her body as Kubja was burning with the blazing fire of desire. Simply by smelling the fragrance of Krishna's lotus feet, Kubja was immediately relieved. Kubja was thus allowed to embrace Krishna with her arms and thus mitigate her long-cherished desire to have Krishna as a visitor in her house. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Yeshang tu antagatang papam, jananang apunya karmanam, te dvandva moha nirmukta, bhajante mang dridda vratya. One must be freed of all material sinful reactions before one can engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Thus, simply by supplying sandalwood pulp to Krishna, Kubja was ultimately rewarded. And it is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yatak pravittir bhutanang yena sarvam idang tatam swakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhing vindati manava. Krishna can be worshipped even by one's profession, if it is sincerely offered for the pleasure of the Lord. Then Kubja told Krishna, "Oh, my dear Krishna, kindly remain with me at least for a few days and enjoy with me. Oh, my dear lotus-eyed friend, I cannot leave you immediately. Please grant my request." As stated in the Vedic versions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multi-potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. So according to expert opinion, Kubja represents the Bhu Shakti potency of Krishna, just as Srimati Radharani represents Krishna's Chit Shakti potency. And although Kubja requested Krishna to remain with her for some days, Krishna politely impressed upon Kubja that it was not possible for him to stay, because Krishna visits this material world occasionally, whereas Krishna's connection with the spiritual world is eternal. Krishna is always present either in the Vaikuntha planets or in the Goloka Vrindavan planet. The technical term of his presence in the spiritual world is called Aprakata-lila. So after satisfying Kubja with sweet words, Krishna returned home with Uddhava. Now, in this connection, there is a warning in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Duradyang samararadya Vishnung sarveshvareshvaram yo vraniti manograhyam asatvat kumanishyasau. The warning is, Krishna is not very easily worshipped personally, for Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chief among the Vishnu Tattvas. To worship Krishna or have direct association with Krishna is not very easy. Specifically, there is a warning for devotees attracted to Krishna through conjugal love. It is not good for them to desire sense gratification by direct association with Krishna. Actually, the activities of sense gratification are material. In the spiritual world, there are symptoms like kissing and embracing, but there is no sense gratificatory process as it exists in the material world. This warning is specifically for those known as sahajiyas, who take it for granted that Krishna is an ordinary human being. They desire to enjoy sex life with Krishna in a perverted way. But in a spiritual relationship, sense gratification is most insignificant. So anyone who desires a relationship of perverted sense gratification with Krishna must be considered less intelligent, and his or her mentality requires to be reformed. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this next episode is entitled Krishna Visits Akrura. After a while, Krishna fulfilled his promise to visit Akrura at his home. Akrura was in relationship with Krishna as servitor, and so Krishna wanted to get some service from Akrura. Krishna went there accompanied by Lord Balaram and Uddhava. So when Krishna, Balaram, and Uddhava approached the house of Akrura, Akrura came forward and embraced Uddhava and offered respectful obeisances, bowing down before Lord Krishna and Balaram. Krishna, Balaram, and Uddhava offered Akrura obeisances in turn and were offered appropriate sitting places. We may remember that it was Akrura who brought Krishna from Vrindavan to Mathura at the request of Kamsa. And when Akrura actually reached Mathura, he begged Krishna to please come and visit his home. But at that time, Krishna said, "No, not right now, later." So this was the fulfillment of Krishna's previous promise to Akrura, and this is the episode we are now studying. So when everyone was comfortably seated, Akrura washed their feet and sprinkled the water on his head. Then Akrura offered nice clothing, flowers, and sandalwood pulp in regular worship. All of them were very satisfied by Akrura's behavior. Then Akrura bowed down before Krishna, putting his head on the ground. Placing Lord Krishna's feet on his lap, Akrura gently began to massage Krishna's lotus feet. And when Krishna was fully satisfied in the presence of Krishna and Balaram, his eyes filled with tears of love for Krishna, and Akrura began to offer his prayers as follows. And it may be remembered, as I mentioned previously, that Akrura is famous for offering prayers. Indeed, Lord Chaitanya quoted one verse in instructing Sanatan Goswami that different devotees have become famous by perfecting one kind of devotional service. So when that was mentioned, it was said that Akrura achieved perfection simply by offering prayers. And we have already studied how Akrura was thinking of so many things on his way to Vrindavan after being sent by Akrura, and those were also prayers. And then when Akrura took Krishna and Balaram out of Vrindavan, they first took bath in the Yamuna, and Akrura was bewildered because after Krishna and Balaram took their bath and were sitting on the chariot, Akrura went to take his bath, and then when he took his bath, he saw Krishna and Balaram were still in the Yamuna. So he became bewildered. And then Krishna and Balaram turned into Mahavishnu and Sheshanag. And again, Akrura offered beautiful prayers. So now that Krishna has come to Akrura's house, now again, famous Akrura will pray. "Oh, my dear Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, it is very kind of you to have killed Kamsa and his associates. Why, you have delivered the whole family of the Yadu dynasty from the greatest calamity. The Yadus will always remember your saving their great dynasty. My dear Lord Krishna and Balaram, both of you are the original personality from whom everything has emanated. Both of you are the original cause of all causes. You have inconceivable energy, and you are also all-pervasive. There is no cause and effect, either gross or subtle, but you. You are the supreme Brahman, realized by the study of the Vedas. By your inconceivable energy, you are actually visible before us. You create this cosmic manifestation by your own potencies, and you enter into it yourself. As the 5 material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, are distributed in everything manifest by different kinds of material bodies, so you alone enter the various bodies created by your own energy. You entered the body as the individual soul and independently as the supersoul. Prabhupada now comments, it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the material body is created by Krishna's inferior energy, but that the living entities themselves, the individual souls, are Krishna's parts and parcels, and that Krishna, the Supersoul, is Krishna's localized representation. Thus, while the material body, the living entity, and the Supersoul altogether constitute an individual living being, originally they are all different energies of the one Supreme Lord, Krishna. Akrura continued his prayers. My Lord, in this material world, you create, maintain, and dissolve the whole manifestation simply by the interactions of the 3 material qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance. But you are not implicated in these activities of those material qualities, for your supreme knowledge is never overcome like the knowledge of the individual living entity. Prabhupada now comments, the Supreme Lord enters the material cosmos and causes creation, maintenance, and destruction in their due course. Whereas the part and parcel living entity enters the material elements and has his or her material body created. The difference between the living entity and the Lord is that the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and has the tendency to be overcome by the interaction of the material qualities. Krishna, the Para-Brahman, or the Supreme Brahman, being always situated in full knowledge, is never overcome by such activities, but the living entities are. Therefore, Krishna is called Achyuta, meaning one who never falls down. Krishna's knowledge of his spiritual identity is never overcome by material action, whereas the minute part and parcel living entities are prone to forget their spiritual identity due to material action. The individual living entities are eternally part and parcel of God. They are minute sparks of the original fire, Krishna. As sparks are prone to become extinguished, whereas the blazing fire does not, so the living entities can become overcome by material activities, whereas Krishna never is. Akrura continues his prayers. Less intelligent men misunderstand your transcendental form to be made of material energy. But that concept is not at all applicable to you, my Lord. For actually, you are all spiritual, and there is no difference between you and your body. Therefore, there is no question of your being conditioned or liberated. You are ever liberated in any condition of life because you do not have a material body. You exist in your own spiritual body. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Vajananti mang mudha manushing tanum asritam parang bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Only fools and rascals consider you, Krishna, to be an ordinary man. To consider your lordship one of the conditioned souls, one of us, conditioned by material nature, is only a mistake due to one's imperfect knowledge. When people deviate from the original knowledge of the Vedas, they try to identify the ordinary living entities with your lordship, who have appeared on this earth in your original spiritual form to reestablish the real knowledge that the living entities are neither one with nor equal to the Supreme God. My dear Lord, you are always situated in uncontaminated goodness known as Shuddha Sattva. Your appearance in this world is necessary to reestablish actual Vedic knowledge as opposed to the atheistic philosophy which tries to establish that God and the living entities are one in the same in all respects. My dear Lord Krishna, this time you have appeared in the house of Vasudeva as his son, along with your plenary expansion, Sri Balaram. Your mission is to kill all the atheistic royal families and destroy their huge military strength. You have advented yourself to minimize the burden of the earth, and to fulfill this mission, you have glorified the dynasty of Yadu by appearing as one of their family members. O my Lord, today my house has been purified by your presence. I have become the most fortunate person in the whole world. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipable by all different kinds of demigods, pittas, kings, emperors, and other living entities, and who is the supersoul of everything, has come into my house. The water of your lotus feet purifies the three worlds, and now you have kindly come to my place. Who in the three worlds, among factually learned men, will not take shelter of your lotus feet and surrender unto you? Who, knowing well that no one can be as affectionate as you are to your devotees, who is so foolish that one will decline to become your devotee? Throughout the Vedic literatures, it is declared that you are the dearmost friend of every living entity. And this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Suhridang Sarvabhutanam. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, completely capable of fulfilling the desires of your devotees. You are the real friend of everyone. And in spite of giving yourself to your devotees, you are never depleted of your original potency. Your potency never decreases or increases in volume. And so, my dear Lord, it is very difficult for even great mystics and demigods to ascertain your movements or approach you. Yet, out of your causeless mercy, you have kindly consented to come to my home. This today is the most auspicious moment in the journey of my entire material existence. By your grace only, I can now understand that my house, my wife, my children, and my worldly possessions are simply bonds to this material existence. And so, my Lord, please cut the knot and save me from this entanglement of false society, friendship, and love. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Sri Krishna was very much pleased by Akrura's offering of prayers. With his smile captivating Akrura more and more, Krishna replied to Akrura's submissive devotional statements as follows. My dear Akrura, in spite of your submissiveness, I consider you my superior, on the level with my father and teacher and most well-wishing friend. You are therefore to be worshipped by me. And since you are my uncle, I am always to be protected by you. So I desire for you to maintain me as I am one of your children. Apart from this filial relationship, an exalted devotee like you is always to be worshipped by everyone. Anyone who desires good fortune must offer his or her respectful obeisances unto personalities like you who are greater than the demigods. People worship the demigods when in need of some sense gratification. And the demigods offer benedictions to their devotees only after being worshipped. But a devotee like you, Akrura, is always ready to offer people the greatest benediction. A saintly person or devotee is free to offer benedictions to everyone, whereas the demigods can offer benedictions only after being worshipped. One can take advantage of a place of pilgrimage after only going there, or after worshiping a particular demigod, which involves waiting a long time for the fulfillment of one's desires. But a saintly person like you, my dear Akrura, can immediately fulfill all the desires of the devotee. So, my dear Akrura, you are always our friend and well-wisher, and you are always ready to act for our welfare. Therefore, I want you to go to Hastinapur and see what arrangement has been made for the Pandavas. Krishna was anxious to know about the sons of Pandu because at a very young age they had lost their father. Being very friendly to his devotees, Krishna was anxious to know about the Pandavas And therefore Krishna deputed Akrura to go to Hastinapur and get information of the real situation. Krishna continued to address Akrura. Yes, I have heard that after King Pandu's death, his young sons, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev, along with their widowed mother Kunti, have come under the charge of Dhritarashtra, who is to look after them as their guardian. But I have also heard that Dhritarashtra is not only blind from birth, but also blind in his affection for his cruel son Duryodhan. The 5 Pandavas are the sons of King Pandu, but Dhritarashtra, due to Duryodhan's plans and designs, is not favorably disposed towards the Pandavas. So, Akrura, kindly go there and study how Dhritarashtra is dealing with the Pandavas. And upon receipt of your report, I shall consider how to favor the Pandavas. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna ordered Akrura to go to Hastinapur, and then Krishna returned home, accompanied by Balaram and Uddhava. Namaste Narasimhaya Praklad Aklad Dayane Hiranya Kashipur Vakshaha Shilatanganakalaye Ito Narsingha Parato Narsingha Yato Yato Yamitato Narsingha Bahir Narsingha Hridaye Narsingha Narsingham Ading Sharanang Prapadye Narsingham Ading Sharanang Prapadye Narsingham Adim Sharanang Prapadye Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahadi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Nrsingadev Jai Nrsingadev Jai Nrsingadev Jai Nrsingadev Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Om Tat Sat